right, Greenleaf fans, this is my first official Greenleaf episode review video. We're talking season 4 premiere episode, which aired last night, entitled Original Sin. Just some quick thoughts off the top of my head. It was a pretty decent episode. I am actually quite pleased that I seem to kind of jump right into the story. You know, I got the same vibe watching Greenleaf for like the first time live that I did when it came to watching If Loving You Is Wrong, both live and reviewing it at the same time earlier this year. And in terms of score, now I'm going to be honest here, and I even put a poll on the community tab. It based off a lot of people, I kind of fall in the majority here. It was a decent episode, but I still miss the haves and have-nots more. Now, I always use the same rule when it comes to each show. You know, a season premiere is supposed to kind of continue on where we left off while kind of setting up what's going to happen in the upcoming season. It doesn't have to reintroduce every flipping character. It doesn't have to answer every single question, but it has to have something that keeps you wondering, okay, what's going to make me watch next week and what's going to be coming up later this season. And I think this episode did that. Now, the score might seem a bit low, but I'm going to give it a 7.5 out of 10. Like, once again, it was a decent episode. It just didn't have a lot of wow moments for me. There was some good stuff in it, but it wasn't like, oh man, I got to watch this again. It was a decent episode. So the score seems low. Hopefully it goes up as the season progresses. But we start when Bob was addressing the congregation. I kind of lost it because, Harmony and Hope, he's introducing Phil. He thanks Connie for, reaching out to him so they can kind of bridge the gap between Calvary and Harmony and Hope. But the thing that got me was the fact that he was was I the only one cringing? Not just Grace, but then members of the congregation when Bob is kind of like, addressing the crowd a bit too much, where he really isn't relating to them. Look at all these beautiful faces out there. Okay, that's great. Good congregation that came in for another Sunday. All these beautiful hats. I've never seen so many. I'm like, man, you should have stopped at the faces and whatnot. If not just said, and wonderful to see everybody again. But then he introduces the interim head pastor, Grace. And here's the part that got me. And okay, let me keep going. Keep it short. And I'm like, oh, wow. Wow. Okay, two things. Number one, have we ever heard Grace preach before? I don't remember. I don't think. Have we? I don't remember. But then after this, because Grace gets on there, and then we had the opening credits, and then we go right to after the sermon. Everybody's like, oh, you did great today, Grace. And then like, oh, you sound like your father, and this and that. And I'm like, I wish we could have heard it. So, yeah. But here's when things get really good. So we have Grace talking with her parents, quotation marks around Bishop. But in any case, it's like, hey, we need to play nice with Harmony and Hope in order to win back the hearts and minds of the people. Pretty much Bishop is ready to start a fight right then and there with Connie and Bob because of the fact that, everybody's kind of side-eyeing Bishop. It's pretty much everyone who did not vote for Bishop and Lady May is kind of like, it's kind of awkward to be around them. So what happens instead is the fact that May goes directly to Bob and Connie, and I honestly got Veronica vibes right off the bat. What people have been saying, about Jeremy, you got to watch Greenleaf. Lady May sounds like she just gives off Veronica vibes. I would love to see those two together. Me too. I would be interested to see Veronica Harrington, Lady May. And I don't know if I would say either Stephanie or Stephanie's mother from Ambitions, just because of the fact that those women do not mince words. They pretty much go directly for what they're gunning for. But the part that got me was, when Lady May was talking about how there are two things in life that should be taken slowly. One of them is preaching. And I'm like, what the hell? And then Bob's like, I've been known to give a few sermons before. I'm like, this dude is thirsty for the chocolate. Man, this is crazy. So basically, Connie's going in on her as well. Like, nobody wants to see you run this church. And then another part that just got me in, again, this episode drew me in because within the first 10 minutes, and my mom kept telling me this, but I wouldn't listen. like, Jeremy, you need to watch this show because some of the things that went down, that's going down in their church, is kind of some of the things we were going through in our home church. And I'm like, when they mentioned, like, doing a third service, cutting down service in order for it to kind of start on time, end on time, and things of that nature, that stuff, or very similar things like that, happen at my home church. I might do a separate video about that. Not to, like, dude, are you just blasting dirty laundry? No, it's just like my experiences at my home church kind of resonate with what happened in Greenleaf. So I think that would be a great video to do, because I think the first opening minutes really did help me relate to the show. And I know this episode review might be a bit longer and wordier than, let's say, an Ambitions or maybe even a Haves and Have-Nots review. But remember, this is my first Greenleaf one. So I really want to make this as raw and, I guess you could say, immersive as possible, because there were parts of this episode where I'm like, damn, everybody was right. I really should have been watching this show as it was, on the air during like season 2 or 3, because this story does really resonate with things I've went through. So I can actually kind of gravitate towards certain characters. Then Connie has some tissue on her heel, but Lady May's like, she tries to warn her, she cuts her an attitude, and then it's like, you know what, no, go ahead now, and then she walks away. Then we have a brief scene between Grace and Phil. Grace is trying to push for, and I think I have the characters' names down, Jacob, her brother, and Charity, her sister, to be like APs, associate pastors. But Phil really isn't having it. I mean, just the fact that, we're not trying to put, without saying it in so many words, it's like, hey, we're not trying to have that many Greenleafs around here. So then we go back to Bishop and Bob, and this was another standoff scene. I mean, Bob is just pretty much making himself comfortable in Bishop's office, and Bishop pretty much calls him out. I believe the name was Mike Evans, a fellow pastor that he knows of, that H&H, yeah, I'm pretty sure we all know H&H. Yeah, they say that in the show. H&H more or less kind of pushed him out. They got a PI, private investigator, to look into Mike's life, and apparently he had an addiction to pain meds, because I believe they said he hurt himself fixing houses for those who were devastated after Katrina, and because of that the congregation kind of turned against him. Harmony and Hope took over, and Mike died not too long after that. So Bishop is like, I'm going to find out. Look, I love Keith David's voice. I mean, I've known of him in a couple of roles. I know him best as Lester Wallace from Barbershop, and I mean that because of the fact that I remember watching the movie a lot growing up, but I know he's been in so many other projects that I've watched or heard about, but his voice is just amazing. Like, I'm going to find out exactly what you're here for, Bob. And I know my voice doesn't sound 100% right now. I'm not sick, but I haven't been sleeping that well, so it's kind of like, your body needs to tell you to shut down sometimes. So I'm not sick. I'm a little stuffy, but it's one of those, once I get some water in me and get some rest, I'll be fine. So my voice isn't like up to par. I need to practice though. I mean, Keith David, those are some huge shoes to fill. So if I'm bad at it, hey, I don't care, because Keith David is awesome. I want to find out exactly what you're doing here, Bob Whitmore. And when I do, everything you build is going to fall apart. And then he walks out. Then then Bob tries to get the last word. He had his feet on the desk. Oh, circulation. It's like, I just needed a charge. And he's like, you know what, Bishop, I'm going to pray for you and that heart. And I'm like, oh, is this foreshadowing? Is Bob pretty much, I guess you could say, pinpointing the chink and the kink? Is it chink or kink and Bishop's armor? Is that what they say? Like the chink? Oh, I found it. Achilles heel. Let's just say Achilles heel. And then he goes on to say, your Spitfire ex-wife came up to me today. I'm like, oh Lord, Bishop was about to lose him. So Bob gets out of there, pretty much having the last word. Then we have Grace and Aaron on the phone, pretty much going on about, the whole Jacob and Charity scenario, the fact that they aren't able to get the AP jobs. And what Aaron is saying actually makes a lot of sense. I mean, and it's brought up several times later on in the episode. Grace is trying to, fit her family in, but at the same time, just because you have Greenleafs in the church doesn't necessarily mean change is going to come. So, I mean, when you think about it, it's almost like the jobs out there to do like affirmative actions. Like, oh yeah, we're going to put, X amount of minorities in there just to meet a certain quota to keep everybody happy, but we're not really going to change anything. We're just going to do it to kind of put a smile on everyone's face, and that's it. So the same with like adding Greenleafs in the mix, who really might not be able to bring about change. Just because you have the Greenleafs in there doesn't mean anything's going to matter within the what was it called, the provisionary year. So Aaron had a good point. Then we talk about the cat. I believe Zora's talking with her parents about moving into Aaron's old cabin, but after her antics in the previous season, I could definitely see why Jacob and Carissa, is it Carissa, have no need to kind of put her in there. And I believe Jacob gets a call from Doris Saunders, and Carissa isn't in for that. Basically, Carissa and Charity were easily the most antagonizing characters of the episode, even more so than Bob and Phil, and Twitter was lighting them up, and it was hilarious. So in any case, we move to Bob and Phil pretty much, recapping what's going on, talking about how Grace wants her siblings in the church, but Bob pretty much says, you know what, if I were her position, I would do the same thing as well. But he's going to make a brief trip to Fairview and I believe a couple other places to kind of do his rounds, to check on people like Cal and whatnot. And Bob pretty much tells Phil he wants Grace moved in before he gets back. And we go to the Greenleaf family. I believe I don't think it was dinner. Either way, they're at the dining room. And Charity's pretty much going off because Grace could not catch a break in this episode. I even posted a meme I made about the SpongeBob, I'm out, or I'm heading out. Because anytime anybody mentions Phoenix or anything like that, Grace is pretty much withdrawn. But Charity and Carissa just would not they would not let up the fact that, why don't you say, I'm going to leave if you don't put my brother and sister as APs of the church. And that's it. Like, they literally go in and in and in. It's like, Carissa, like, once again, I'm new to the show, so excuse my ignorance, but based off what I've seen, I really haven't seen much of what makes Carissa able to say, I've sacrificed and I've earned a voice in this discussion. And I'm like, nah, I don't really think so. Like, again, remember, I binged the first 3 seasons, but even then I kind of picked up on things where, I don't really think she did. And when everybody literally leaves from the table, I think it was Lady May that was like, with all the stupidity and foolishness that has been said at this table, I'm surprised it hasn't fallen to the ground. And then Bishop chuckles. That was pretty good. Then we have, oh yeah, because Charity, if I'm not mistaken, pretty much says, you know what, hey, I'm not singing anymore, I want to go to preaching. And I'm like, no, I don't really think that's going to work. Okay, so then we have Grace and May. And May, to me, it really reminds me of, I know this is a weird comparison, but the Jacksons, The American Dream. You know, the scene after, I believe it was after, towards the end of the movie where Michael, his hair caught on fire at the Pepsi commercial, and he's in his room, and then his mother comes up, Angela Bassett, and talking to him about how, you don't need to be scared of your family. We need to stick together. Basically. And I think this happened right after Motown 25 as well. Wait, yeah, when he was working on Thriller, I think he did the human nature bit, and then they're walking around, and, you see Michael's giraffes and everything. Pretty much it's like his mother's like, look, your brothers just want to be involved. It's like, no, this is something I need to do for myself. So pretty much it's like what Bob says to Grace later in the episode, family holds you back. Putting family first holds you back. Pretty much what Grace is like. Put your family first. It keeps the family together. And then they talk about how they'll reveal who Grace's real father is, but only after we went back to church. And pretty much, I'm kind of iffy on this, and I'll have to do a separate video. I can see both sides of this because of the fact that Grace really isn't in, no pun intended, good graces with her family right now. And it's like, this really isn't her fault when you think about it, because Lady May's the one who, stepped out. But it's just like, I feel that if the truth came out, and then, like Charity and Chris and everybody, they'll be going off because it's like, you knew and you didn't tell us. But it's just one of these situations where I can see May's point, because the family dynamic is fragile enough as it is while they're trying to come back. I think the opening of this episode was kind of recapping the end of season 3, where the family agrees to come together in order to get back to church. But to actually have the truth being revealed about her real father, I think that would pretty much shatter the little fragile unity that the family has at this very moment. So I can see both sides, but like I said, I'll probably do another video on that. And it ends with like, don't ask, tell, in regards to I'm not working here unless my siblings are APs. Then we have Carissa looking at houses, and Jacob is excited because Doris has asked, like, hey, can you be the life coach to my son? I believe his name is Dante. And it seems to me that Carissa's really only interested in gigs that would get money so they can move out of the Greenleaf's household. We have Bishop and May. Man, Bishop was walking by. All I can say is he obviously liked what he saw from his ex-wife. And basically, you know, it's like, look, if you want to get back in this bed with me, you're going to have to, you know, get remarried. We're going to need a ring. And we're going to have to get back together because I love you, but I'm no longer in love with you. But once again, this episode was definitely set up for what's to come later this season. And it seems like, you know, aside from getting the church back, trying to put the family together, Bishop is going to have to do what he can in order to win his love back. So that was a nice scene. That was definitely a nice scene. Then we have Grace receiving a voicemail from an inmate, AJ. We'll get back to that. Zora wants to move into Noah's cabin. Lady Mae's basically saying, hey, look, if we kick back up Bible studies at 5 in the morning, you can do it. 5:30? Okay. And then she runs out. That's a nice little cabin, though. I ain't gonna lie. That's a nice looking cabin, which begs the question, if Carissa and Jacob do find a house and move out with their son, would Zora stay or leave? Interesting. So, in any case, we move forward. Phil tries to catch Grace in the hallway, and she's still not ready to move into her office. And I believe I said this a few seconds ago. We see Zora going to the cabin, pretty much taking the sheets off everything and just basking in her new living quarters, so to speak. And man, she is lucky. Then we have Noah calling Grace. Wait, did I skip over that? Yeah, Noah's calling Grace. And It's like every time Grace is on the phone, she gets interrupted, I think. Or we just cut to another scene. Like, Greenleaf is really giving me Ambition vibes where it's like there's one scene, then there's 3 scenes to take place, and we jump right back to where we left off. That isn't a complaint, it's just an observation. Then we have Charity and Phil talking and asking her to be his eyes and ears for the Greenleaf family, basically being a spy without him saying being a spy. And if I make it to the head pastor instead of your sister Grace, then I might be in a position to put you as AP. And that sounds good to her, but you know, she's kind of iffy on whether or not she's going to do it. And I think one of the best lines from Charity that has people looking at her side eyes, like, how are you ready to be a pastor when you legit say that you would hate your sister if it wasn't a sin to? Then we have Grace and Bob pretty much talking, and like she was saying, I'm going to walk out if my brother and sister aren't in the church. But Bob asked a good question. Like, I understand, like, if you aren't on his side, because he does seem shady, but it's like the same with like anybody who's about to leave a job or whatever. It's like, if you walk, what are you going to do then? Like, what happens? That's pretty much it. But like she said, you know, hey, my brother and sister aren't involved, then I walk. And then we have Jacob being brought into the office of Dante's coach to be his like life coach. But in any case, he's like, well, it would look better on your letterhead and resume if you were actually employed by a church as a pastor. And Dante's mom, Doris, is really feels strongly about Jacob being that guy. So pretty much Jacob said, hey, hopefully by the end of the day, I should be employed. I'm waiting to hear back on the job. So hopefully that goes well. And then we have Carissa just chilling on the couch, and the maid comes by saying, hey, if you could just wash your clothes on Tuesday and Thursday like everyone else, Lady Mae would really appreciate it. And then Jacob goes in to say, hey, if Grace gives me the HP job, then I got this life coach job and we are set, baby. But then Carissa's like, you know, oh, you just told me that your fate is sealed based off Grace's ability to get you that job back. So then we move to the brief scene between Zora and Sophia, who's about to leave for school. And Zora's like, why don't you just stay and live with me in the cabin? And they pretty much, you know, just kind of catch up on everything. And Sophia makes a good point, like, why do you continuously go for these bad boys? Because Zora plans to be with Dante because, you know, Jacob is hopefully going to be his life coach. It was just a brief scene there. Then you had the family meeting, probably one of my favorite scenes of the episodes. The fact that Jacob gets the AP job, then Charity goes off and is like, why didn't you walk? I forgot exactly what she said, but it was supposed to be a serious scene, but I was just laughing so hard. So she's going off, and then Bishop's like, well, if you didn't sputter around like a loose hose with your emotions, then maybe we could comfort you and see how you're doing. Because apparently didn't her husband leave for another man or something like that. And yeah, Charity was just showing her ass. And then Carissa, she was like, oh, I'm good now. Jacob got the AP job. We're good. So it's pretty much Charity by herself. Then she literally gets on the phone with Phil. Basically, I'll be the spy. So basically, she's planning to do what it takes to sabotage her own family just to be the star in the pulpit, which it ain't. Oh man, this is a hot mess right here. Charity, she's like like I mentioned the Jacksons earlier. She's like the LaToya Jackson, the only talentless Jackson. But she's the one involved in scandals and tell-all books and everything just to get attention. So it looks like, Charity's about to make that move herself in order to bump out Grace and her brother, as long as it means that she gets involved. But Grace made a good point. I mean, I literally said brother and sister aren't walking, but the fact that he even agreed to just Jacob, there wasn't a need to push for more. So like Bob said, if you walk, then what? And like Lady May said, tell, don't ask. But she made a good point. It's like, what was the point of just pushing for that? And like Carissa said, Jacob has been a pastor before. So we'll just have to wait and see what unfolds. But then the end of the episode, Noah and Grace. Noah calls Grace, and apparently they have a son in Phoenix who's an inmate, AJ. And that's where the episode leaves off. So overall, guys, like I said, this episode review was basically my raw take on my first time watching Greenleaf live. I gotta say, I can see why people are into the show. Wasn't a great episode, but like I said earlier, this is a season premiere. It's supposed to kind of set the groundwork for what's to come, and it really reminds me of the Haves and Have-Nots season 6. And what I mean by that is that one episode they aired, and then they had a good cliffhanger, and it's like, oh snap, okay, let's see what's going on in the next episode. I did see that right before I started recording this video, OWN put the trailer for the next episode up. It's about 40 seconds, so I'll look at it a couple times. If there's enough stuff in there, I'll definitely do a video on it. But just know that I do have at least 3 to 4 videos I will be doing based off last night's Greenleaf episode. So if you're new to the channel, I hope you take a moment to hit that subscribe button. Greenleaf Review, the temporary channel name. It's been suggested that, what if you kept it the Haves and Have-Nots review, but you kept the Greenleaf photo? And I'm like, that actually isn't a bad idea. I'll give it about a week or maybe a few days. We'll see what happens. So thanks so much for tuning in. And guys, if you are, this is my first Greenleaf video, just let me know what you thought in the comment section below. I gave it a 7.5, not because it was bad, just because it was, hey, it did, the season premiere did what it was supposed to do. What were your thoughts on the episode? What were some of your favorite parts? And I'll talk to you later. Congratulations on making it to the end of this video. If you like what you just saw, make sure to hit the thumbs up button, or if you have anything you would like to add to the video, make sure to leave your thoughts in the comment section below. If you want to keep up with me on social media, go to the description box. All of my links for social media are right there. Also, if you feel like you would like to donate to the channel, make sure to click on the link to PayPal. Any amount helps. $1, $5, $20. As a full-time YouTuber, any support from my fans really does mean a lot to me. Finally, make sure to hit the subscribe button as well as the bell notification icon. That way you're kept up to date on any new content I post to the channel. Once again, thank you so much for tuning in, and I'll talk to you in the next video.